Yo, what's going on, coaches? It's your man, Immanuel, back with a new episode of Multiply Your Sales. And as y'all can see, I'm joined by a very lovely guest, my girl, Danielle The Coach. What's going on with you?
Hey Jay, hey y'all.
Yo, I'm super excited to have you on the podcast. Got to give a shout out to my man Andre for introducing and connecting us. Man, he was on the show dropping gems, and I already expect you gonna come on here and do the same. Before we dive into our convo, I just always like to set the stage and let those coaches who are tuned in know who our conversation today is going to have the biggest impact on. And for today's convo, it's going to be any coaches who still got their 9 to 5. You've been coaching maybe a little bit on the side, but you're ready to make it a full-time gig and you want to know when the right time to do that is, today's convo is for you. So, with that being said, Danielle, I got to ask you, why do you think some coaches tend to struggle with knowing when it's time to make that transition from 9 to 5 to full time coaching?
It's a couple of things. One is the financial piece, right?
Mm-hmm.
So most coaches, persons who are looking to transition from the 9 to 5 into coaching have some type of expertise, which also translates to you're probably making decent money, right?
Right.
And so wanting to make that leap is like, oh well, when I make the same amount that I'm making in my day job, like in coaching in my business, that'll be when like the coast is clear and I'm comfortable and confident with like making the leap because the math is mathing, right?
Right.
And so when the math is not quite mathing as quickly as one might desire,
Right.
then things become a bit questionable. Another thing that keeps people from wanting to or feeling like it's time is knowing who they are in the marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
Coaching, although when you get around coaches, it seems like it's something that's been around for eons, right?
Yeah.
But when you step outside of the cultures of coaching and people who get it and know about it and understand like why it's so necessary, why you should not live without it, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
not a it's a necessity more than a luxury, right?
Right.
But I think the optic on it is that, oh, if I know about it, it's a luxury, it's a nice to have.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, you need it. But when you step outside of the bubbles of coaching, right, the pockets of
Mm-hmm.
coaching, there isn't as much awareness of it. And I
Mm-hmm.
like to put it up against like therapy. I say like
Okay.
therapy, especially in communities of color, is
Mm-hmm.
now a household term. We use it affectionately and we also use it jokingly, right? I
Right.
need to talk to somebody about that, right?
Yeah.
You might need to talk to somebody about that. Or
Facts.
you know what? I need in all seriousness, like I need a therapist, right? I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking for someone. So the conversation is less about it being taboo, but more about like, now where do I find one? Or where do I find someone that I can trust?
Mm-hmm.
Where's the representation?
Right.
So the conversation around therapy has evolved in the community, but now I think coaching has replaced what therapy was maybe a
Mm-hmm.
decade or so ago.
Yeah.
And not that coaching is taboo, but it could be. But it's just not a blanket fundamental understanding of the power of coaching
Mm-hmm.
and why you need it. So stepping into this coaching world, into the marketplace as
Yeah.
a coach, whatever kind of coach you are, especially if it's not in one of the niches that are less intuitive. So there's fitness coaches, there's wellness coaches. You kind of get what that means, right?
Right.
But when you step into other genres like life coaching, transformation coaching,
Yeah.
executive performance coaching, it's just like you got to sit with it for a minute, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
nobody's really talking about it ad nauseum, and it's not that they're not household terms. So it's
Right.
just like instead of being able to step out into the marketplace and say, "Hey, I'm this coach doing X, Y, Z," and people know what you do, they know what it means, and they already know that they have a need. It's like oh, what are they doing? Oh,
Mm-hmm.
that's interesting. They might catch a whiff of what you're saying. They might read a couple of lines, right? But they're not really picking up what you're putting down. And it takes a
Right.
lot of pounding of the pavement
Mm-hmm.
um, in order to get people's attention, especially when you are presenting something that they don't even know that they need. And
Right.
so that can delay the process of hitting those financial goals, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
being clear about what you do and who you serve in the marketplace and how you go about doing it because you're not sure like what translates from a messaging standpoint
Mm-hmm.
with your most ideal client.
Right. Nah, that's good. And you spot on. The one thing that I want to kind of do is kind of examine your personal journey, right? When you kind of look
Yeah.
back, what was it like when you were making that decision to say, hey, I got this 9 to 5, but I also want to go all in on coaching? Can you take us back to how you were able to process through that?
Yeah. So I'll caveat with this. Do what I
Mhm.
say, don't do what I did. Okay. Because it's not for
Respect, respect.
everybody. It's not for everybody, okay?
That's
But
real.
for me, I had spent over a decade working for the federal government, the FBI to be
Okay.
specific. I grew
Wow.
up in the FBI. Started off as an honors intern, did a number of things, worked in a number of different divisions, supported different violations. I had the most, I say, fairy tale career ever. And fairy tales come with like drama and
Yeah,
challenges too, right?
they do.
But it was less of that and more of just a whimsical experience, especially for somebody that
Mhm,
looks like me, young,
mhm,
black, female, right,
mhm,
non-special agent. And
mm,
so it it positioned me to be able to experience a number of things and
mhm,
to grow personally and professionally.
mhm,
But there also came a point when I began feeling unfulfilled,
mm,
like something was missing, although the mission of the organization is great. I mean, it's when you're on the inside, you have a certain perspective, but when you're on the outside, it's just like, oh, well, you work for the organization with these three letters, right, in neon lights.
right.
You should be thankful. You got this good government job.
Yeah.
You got a background clearance and all of these things, right? But when you're in there, you're not doing all of the things. You have a specific submission, right, that you're
Mm,
working towards. And after having moved around a couple of times, trying to find myself and what was
mhm,
next, I realized that, like, I think my time here is up. I think that there is something bigger, richer, deeper, more impactful that I
mhm.
am supposed to do with my
Right.
life, but I had no idea what that was. With over a decade is a long amount of time.
It is.
And what I know is true is that for mid-career professionals, which I like to call people that are like in that range, is that you find security, you find
Mhm,
comfort. You've developed an expertise or some level of expertise doing one or some things, right?
mhm.
And you know how to move around said organization if you've been in one place for that amount of time as well. You just
Yeah.
kind of like you know how to bob and weave, right? And
Right.
so it's just like, well, okay, I got this going for me. So like,
Mhm.
is it really time? And
Yeah.
for me, like it was. But my issue was that I didn't want to just do anything or just
Mhm.
something just to get me
Okay.
out of that discomfort, right? And that
Mhm.
unfulfillment. I wanted to do something that brought me joy, that also made an impact, right?
Yeah.
And thinking about next in that way, I found myself questioning like what my life's purpose was.
Mm,
Like, and I can't even say in a way that I never did before because I don't
mhm,
think I've ever um, thought about my purpose before. Like, I
mm.
never had to. Like, I had this
Yeah.
fairy tale career. I was moving and
Mhm.
shaking and climbing and doing all of the things and having this experience and traveling on the government's dime. Like, my life was great, right? And I
Yeah.
had still getting promoted and making good money. Had the audacity to bring my DC money to Richmond. Everything was moving
Right.
until I got burned out. And
Mm,
so for me, it wasn't enough to just find to band-aid the situation and just find something else. It was
mhm.
important for me to really do some hard work to see like what is it that's going to get me jumping out of the bed in the morning, even if I'm dog tired, but I'm excited about what I'm going to do because
Yeah.
that's what's missing. And so when
Mhm.
I started to go on my purpose journey and like evaluating life and my experience, things that I had overcome through a different lens, um, I found myself saying that, oh, now maybe it's the time where I will go back and, well, not go back, but finally pursue like being a therapist. Because that's
Mhm.
something that I would always say earlier in my career after having dealt with varying personalities in the workplace and looking at people sometimes not saying what's on my mind, but my eyes probably telling, like, what is wrong
The
with
eyes
you?
don't
Like,
lie,
why
right?
are you like this? You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And so it's just like, you know what? I think I missed my calling. I majored in math, got a master's in IT. I should have followed psychology in undergrad,
Yeah.
right? So I would always joke and say, in my next life, I'm going to be a therapist, right?
Mhm.
So when I started having this mid-career crisis, is what I call it, I
Mm,
said, well, maybe my next life starts now.
mhm.
Maybe I should pursue it and maybe I can pursue it. I was still even more youthful than what I am now. So I said, let me see. And then when I started to kind of like do my research and see what it would take for me to pursue that new route, it
Mhm.
would have taken entirely too much time and money that I
Mm,
just didn't have. And it was less about the money and more about the time because I was already
mhm.
burnt out running on fumes. I
Yeah.
needed something that was like a quicker fix. And when I
Right.
say quick fix, I was like, I give it a year. I don't,
Mhm.
like, over a year, I can't help you. And so
Yeah.
that was years of a requirement, right? And so I was like,
Right.
okay, that won't work. So, like, what's plan B? And I stumbled upon coaching,
Mm.
being like, I call it the first cousin
Mhm.
of therapy, right? And so you don't require, you don't have to be licensed, right?
Mhm.
I could literally wake up tomorrow and put coach in front of or behind my name and be a coach, because who's going to check me, because it's an
Right.
unregulated industry. But
Yeah.
for me, it was important that if I was going to branch out and do something different, that I did
Mhm.
it in a way that gave me credibility on day
Mhm.
one.
Mhm.
And so I decided that I wanted to get certified as a
Mhm.
coach before actually diving in head first. And
Okay.
so that is like the Cliff Notes version, if you will,
Right.
of what got me to the point of coaching. Like, I didn't know about it,
Mm.
well in advance, hadn't been
Mhm.
dabbling in it formally. What I
Right.
came to know after the fact is that I've been doing this all along. I just didn't know it had a
Yeah.
title, right? And
Right.
so that was just confirmation that I was moving in alignment with who I naturally was, and
Mhm.
serving people, making an impact, doing things that brought me joy. So total full
Yeah.
circle moment.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, like you mentioned, it can be challenging when you find yourself in a position where you are in a what they would consider like a cushy job. You got a cushy position, everything is smooth. And like you mentioned though, there's typically something that is going to be that catalyst to make you think, hold on, is there a different option? And in your case, like you mentioned, burnout. And it's real. That's something that people have faced in almost every career path. But with that in mind, kind of thinking back to that transition from 9 to 5 to full time coaching, where do you think most coaches tend to go? Uh, where do they make the biggest mistakes? And what mistakes do you think that they should avoid when making that transition?
First and foremost, and this is why I say do what I say, not what I do, is having
Right.
an exit strategy. And I'm not going to say that I didn't have an exit strategy, because I absolutely, positively did.
Okay.
Um, but I quit my 9 to 5 before my coaching business formally existed. Right? I
Okay.
quit my 9 to 5 a couple months into my coaching certification program, and it
Okay.
wasn't until I quit in May. I didn't like formally establish my business until December.
Okay.
And so any clients that I had were pro bono as a part of my
Hmm.
requirements for my coaching training certification, right? But I
Hmm.
also had significant savings.
Hmm.
I had a mortgage, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, so I had real adult responsibilities, right? But I
Right.
also had been fiscally responsible years prior,
Hmm.
right, as a lifestyle, and that afforded me the to be able to flex and exercise some fu money, right,
Right.
and say I'm out of here. I'm
Yeah.
going places, and out the door is the first one.
Right.
And so I know that's not everybody's situation. I know that's not
Hmm.
everybody's experience.
Yeah.
So I absolutely had an exit strategy that time. Well, that's actually not the first time that I quit, though. The first
Mm-hmm.
time I did quit with less of a strategy, actually no strategy besides knowing that I'm educated, I'm teachable, I'm trainable, and I'll
Hmm.
be okay. But I ended up being recruited back to the same
Hmm.
organization. So yes, I gave my notice, right? And when I said I was done. But
Hmm.
opportunity presented itself, and it was like something I just couldn't pass up. And so I took advantage of it. And then 5 years later, I found myself in the space that I was just telling you about, where burnt
Right.
out, frustrated, undervalued, all of the things. And now at this point, I had a mortgage. Before I didn't, right? So I was looking at myself in the mirror a little cross-eyed, like, "Girl, what are you doing?" But it was a matter of legit recognizing that for years I often wondered, even in less pressing times, like, I just wonder if if how successful might I be if I worked as hard for myself as I
Hmm.
do for this organization.
Right.
Like, and I've
Right.
asked myself that a number of times, just out of curiosity. Just
Hmm.
I really wonder. And it was one of those like what if situations. And so when things got tight for me and I was kind of feeling the discomfort and probably being nudged in the direction of where I am today,
Yeah.
that's when these new thoughts came about, and I really started to put some action to it.
Hmm.
Um, but quitting without a legit exit strategy is one of the things that you absolutely want to avoid.
Hmm.
You can't prepare for everything. You don't know everything that awaits you on the other side of your decision. But my goodness,
Right.
if you have a plan if you have some semblance of what it is that you're doing and where you're going and how you think you're going to go about doing the things, it's like preparation. It just it gives you peace of mind,
Mm-hmm.
and also affords you the opportunity to realign yourself when you get off track, right?
Right.
When things aren't really adding up or not moving the way you intended for them to. It's just like, well, let me look at my plan. What did
Mm-hmm.
I say I was going to do? Am I still on track? Did I make an
Right.
informed decision to veer off track or
Mm-hmm.
not? And then you make more executive decisions to like
Mm-hmm.
realign and course correct. So the exit strategy is important. And it's also important to know that exit strategies aren't created equal
Right.
because everybody's situations and circumstances and lifestyles are not the same. Just
Mm-hmm.
like my situation,
Yeah.
didn't have any kids, wasn't married, had significant savings.
Mm-hmm.
I was responsible for me,
Yeah.
right? Whereas I know someone who may have other dependencies may not have been able to make as swift of a decision or that decision at all, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because there are other um, dependencies
Mm-hmm.
that accommodate their lifestyle. But it doesn't mean it can't ever happen. It just might not happen as fast as somebody else, right?
Mm-hmm.
So have an exit strategy. Don't quit
Mm-hmm.
without an exit strategy. Um, I would also say quitting before you have clarity about who you are in the marketplace. And when I say who you are in the marketplace, it's you're clear about who you serve
Mm-hmm.
and the problem that you help them solve.
Okay.
One thing that I know for a fact is that newer coaches
Mm-hmm.
that are breaking into the marketplace
Mm-hmm.
have a servant's heart, right?
Yeah.
I can help anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And you really can, right? But if you want to make waves and establish yourself as a go-to for something,
Mm-hmm.
you gotta get specific. And it's
Right.
hard. I'm not even going to invalidate anybody who's listening, like their sentiments, because I know because I was there. That was me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can help anybody. Like I said,
Yeah.
I'm a life coach. I'm a leadership coach, right?
Yeah.
You got those issues. I can help
Mm-hmm.
you. But from a marketing standpoint, understanding the richness and also what it takes to be an effective marketer,
Mm-hmm.
like you got to pick something.
Right.
You got to pick something, and
Yeah.
it does take time in order to get clear on what you like to do, what you don't like to do, who's your most ideal client, who's not really your ideal client, right? As
Right.
much as you thought they might be, but even having some semblance of a niche is the position that you want to be in. Like, don't quit thinking that you're going to serve everybody. And also, don't quit expecting a flood of coaching clients right away,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're just starting out. Like, you couldn't have
Yeah.
told me back in 2019 that
Mm-hmm.
when I, turned the open sign on for my business, my
Yeah.
online business, that I wasn't going to have a flood of coaching clients and I was
Right.
going to match my six-figure income in months.
Yeah.
Listen, utter disappointment. You hear me? Utter.
Right.
Even back then, coaching was talked about. I didn't know anybody in my sphere that was
Mm.
talking about coaching
Wow. Wow.
before I came online. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, hey y'all, I'm going to get my certification to be a coach. I
Right.
became Danielle the coach.
Mm-hmm.
Coach, right? Nobody in my sphere was talking about coaching. And so
Mm.
now, 4.5 years later, and it may be
Mm-hmm.
because I've been in coaching spaces and I've
Yeah.
accumulated a network of industry peers where I see
Mm-hmm.
it more often.
Mm-hmm.
And so there probably are more people talking about coaching these days. But even back then, it was like, oh, okay. Oh, you worked for the FBI? I didn't know that. And I'm
Yeah.
like, wait, come with me. We're moving on to greener pastures. I'm a
Right.
coach now. Don't worry about the FBI.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So just manage your expectations. And hey,
Mm-hmm.
it could take off for you because there's a lot
Yeah.
of people out here doing the work and spreading
Mm-hmm.
the gospel of coaching. So it's no
Mm-hmm.
longer as much of a misnomer
Right.
as it has been in years past.
Mm-hmm.
But in the event that it doesn't take off right away, you're not broken. You
Yeah.
just got some work to do to educate, right? And then invite
Mm-hmm.
people into your space to work with you for a fee.
Right. Right.
That part.
That part.
That's the next mistake is giving away your gift and your talent and your services for free for too
Mhm.
long.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, you just dropped so many gems. And what I want to do for those who are listening and watching is quickly summarize the things that you mentioned, right? So, if you are currently a coach going through or considering that transition from 9 to 5 to full time coaching, based on what Danielle just said, the things that you got to make sure is that you got you an exit strategy, right? Make sure you got that in place. Make sure you have clarity with regards to your role and your identity in the marketplace. Make sure you also are not accepting jobs without what? Getting that money. And then the other one that you mentioned as well is making sure, hold on, it just slipped my mind. What was the third one? The third one that you said. So, it just slipped my mind that quick.
You know
Like
who you
you
are in the
said,
marketplace?
yeah, you had identity in marketplace. It was making sure they had clarity. And dang, what was the one that you were
Oh,
just
not
talking?
expecting a flood of
Yeah,
clients
the
right away.
expectations. That's what it's right.
Yeah.
Making sure your expectations are on point. So like let me quickly summarize that again. So, making sure your expectations are on point, making sure you got clarity about your identity in the marketplace, making sure that you are getting paid for your services, and definitely making sure you have an exit plan or exit strategy. So, those are the four things you got to make sure you got tight before you guys make that leap. So, with that in mind, I kind of want to talk about what you were mentioning is getting clients. That's a huge part of being able to be a full-time coach. And
Mhm.
one of the things that we talk about here on this podcast is how to land clients, how to multiply your sales using video, email, and podcast. When you look at your
Mhm.
business, which of those three has been the most effective means for you getting new clients?
I want to say video
Okay.
and email coming in. I don't even think it's fair to say a close second, but email will be second.
Hmm.
But definitely, like video has been super powerful, especially on like social media.
Hmm.
Realizing that most people don't use video with the camera focused on them. They might post a
Hmm.
video, but it's showing some other stuff or
Yeah.
somebody else, right?
Right.
But to be then be on video and to be speaking sensibly and educating on a topic or giving value, it
Hmm.
begins to like set you apart and give you this kind of like star power and credibility
Yeah.
that you don't even realize. And I tell this story like I went to homecoming. I went to
Hmm.
HBCU, Elizabeth City
Okay.
State University, Viking Pride. Okay,
Yes.
so I went to homecoming a couple of years ago, and
Mhm.
I think it might have been the 2021 or right after the pandemic like started to kind of like ease up and things
Okay.
outside started opening up. I went to homecoming, and I think everybody had the same idea, tired of being pent up, right? Everybody
Yeah.
goes to homecoming. My school was small, and
Okay.
so it's like to know it is to love it, and so
Yeah.
it's this homey feeling, all the vibes. So I go, I'm just D, yo, I'm D. They call
Yeah.
me D Money back in school, right?
Okay. D
It's
money.
right. That might have been something prophetic because I didn't have it back
Right.
then, okay?
Yo, always got to be prophetic, right?
And so I'm like, I'm greeting people. Oh, I see
Yeah,
you big time, and this, and
yeah.
I'm like, what are you talking about? And I'm
Hmm.
like, okay, it's because I've been going live on
Yeah.
Facebook. I've been live on IG. I'm doing
Yeah.
things, right? And people see me. And I take it for granted because
Hmm.
I'm being me and I'm doing me and
Hmm.
I'm doing what I have to do to market my business. But I don't
Right.
realize how other people perceive it and receive it
Hmm.
because it's
Hmm.
become all that I know, right? It's a
Yeah.
part of my DNA now, but
Hmm.
also staying grounded and realizing most people aren't doing that.
Not at all. Not at
And
all.
so and then there's levels to the video for me as well.
Yeah.
I've had a media appearance. I've been on the news.
Hmm.
And that's more video that has been. So I've actually run ads to
Yeah.
that particular video, and that's instant credibility with
Hmm.
people who a second before my ad popped up on their feed didn't even know
Right.
I existed, right?
Right.
And then they lean in and they want to know more. So video has been powerful
Hmm.
for me. And then also allowing people to get a feel for like my personality, like my
Right.
demeanor.
Hmm.
Apparently, there's something there that's soothing,
Hmm.
that draws people in, especially
Yeah.
relative to the work that I do, right? The
Hmm.
world
Hmm.
does enough of beating you up, right? So when you come in the world,
Right.
it's like it's a vibe. Like we chill
Yeah.
over here. We get to
Yes.
work, right?
Yes.
We work through some things, but
Yes.
it's you can kind of like just zen
Hmm.
out for a second. Let's do this.
Yeah.
So video has been a game changer for me, for sure.
I love that. And as I know you already know, having been deep in it using video, that there's so many different strategies, so many different tactics, so many different things that people can do using video. And before we talk about what works for you, I want to talk
Yeah.
about some of the things that you try and you like, nah, that wasn't as effective as I thought, especially when it comes to landing clients. So what strategies have you tried with video that you found didn't work best for you in your business?
Strategies with video. So actually, for me, I do have a YouTube channel with
Okay.
videos.
Hmm.
I don't really market it often, so I have it
Hmm.
there. It's just like a catalog, social
Hmm.
proof, all of the
Yeah.
things. Um, but it's not something that has served me independent of me um, being intentional about growing it and getting people's
Mhm,
eyes on it. Like it's
mhm,
there.
mhm.
That hasn't really done anything for me, but I got almost 100 videos over there or something
Okay,
like that.
yo,
You
that's
know,
not a little bit, man. Yo, most people struggle to get to that 100 mark.
over time, right? And so it's like it's
Yeah.
there so that if I ever, I guess, choose to want to grow an audience over there,
Mhm.
I'm not starting from scratch, but it's
Right.
not something that people are booking calls with me and they're like, oh yeah, I found you on YouTube. You know what I'm
Mhm,
saying? But I do
mhm,
have a presence, and I'm okay with that.
mhm.
But I have been intentional and strategic about just taking up space where I can, even if I'm not intentionally focusing on that particular platform
Right.
just yet. That's one of the
Yeah.
things.
And one of the things that you mentioned is that you have been going live, and that's a hurdle for some people is going live. How has that been helpful when it comes to you and your business?
It has been, I'm glad you said me and my business, right?
Yeah.
So it's been a game changer for
Mhm,
sure, but it's also been a confidence boost for me,
mhm,
right? Just getting even more comfortable talking about what I do
mhm,
live. So there is no like running it back. It's just like you just
mhm.
go with it. And it's also been instrumental in helping me give myself grace to not
Yeah.
have to be perfect in all the ways. And
Mhm.
people don't expect perfection anyway. And like if
Right.
I show up and I'm authentic, if I misspeak on something, I just correct it. Like they're there for the value and the underlying message, not me crossing T's and dotting I's. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And
Yeah.
so it's something that I had to get over.
Mm.
Same similar hurdle. I started off pre-recording videos and posting them like baby steps, right?
Yeah,
And I'll
yeah.
tell you what happened was what got me going live was because
Mhm.
I didn't want to do all of that pre-work
Right,
to like
right.
pre-record,
Yeah.
then maybe even like edit something. And I'm
Mhm.
like, they're gonna get what they're gonna get.
Right.
Period. Like
Mhm.
time was the impetus of me just saying like forget pre-recording. Like I
Yeah.
trust myself enough to do a good enough job, and if I don't do that great this time, I'll get it the
Mhm.
next time.
Yeah.
But yeah, going live, and then for the business part of it though,
Mhm.
again, it's allowing people to experience me, because when I've taken the time to think about the user experience on social media, especially like Facebook, right?
Right.
It's still images most of the time and
Mhm.
words. There might
Mhm.
be music, but you very seldom hear someone's voice. You experience them
Mhm.
through still images.
Right.
When I hit the live button and I'm speaking
Mhm.
to you, right, and I'm making it seem
Yeah.
like I'm speaking just to you, it's you and I, right?
Right.
You get to hear the cadence of my voice, and for some
Mhm.
people, it may turn them off. Great, that's what it's
Right.
for. For
Yeah.
some people, it's just like, oh my gosh, there's something about her.
Mhm.
I didn't realize, like, whatever they didn't realize, or you know, I want to hear more. Like,
Right.
this is a nice pattern interrupt from the ridiculousness that can be on on all of our social media feeds of
Yes.
any given second of any
Right.
given day. And so it's kind of like a palate cleanse, right?
Mhm.
Especially if there's someone who is an entrepreneur juggling a
Mhm.
9 to 5, and they're fed up in the
Yeah.
same shoes that I was in. Like I'm speaking their language, I'm on their pew. And
Mhm.
so it's just, I think the palate cleanse is a great analogy for it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also allowed me to draw people in and get people used to taking action based on invitations. I won't say commands,
Right.
but invitations that I give them, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh, she said do this. I think I might want to go do it because the
Right.
last thing she said, I was picking up what she was putting down. She was onto something, but I think I trust her, and I think I'm going to do this too, right?
Yeah.
And so it's this one to many
Mm-hmm.
relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a little eerie because I don't know necessarily who's watching unless they tell
Right.
me, or they might comment when I'm live, or they might
Mm-hmm.
drop replay, so I know they caught the replay. But
Yeah.
it's like I'll even get people. I go homecoming again. This past
Mm-hmm.
homecoming, I was
Yeah.
there, and one of my classmates was like, "I listened to all your stuff. Thank you so much. Please keep doing it." I had no
Yeah.
idea. They don't
Right.
do nothing. You know what I'm saying? And so
Yeah.
it was just to know that me using my voice, like
Mm-hmm.
that gift, just me using my voice in alignment with my purpose, right, to make an
Yeah.
impact and doing things that I love, even if at one
Mm-hmm.
point in time I was scared, right? Scared of getting it wrong, scared of embarrassing myself, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. It's allowed me to show up as a leader and also
Mm-hmm.
as a trailblazer, doing things that most people are scared to do, right?
Right.
But then doing it in service of my most ideal client.
Yeah, so important. And it's amazing to hear how effective going live has been for you. And like you mentioned, there's pros and cons to doing the pre-recorded videos versus the live. And the one thing that I can say, having also done live shows before, is just the beauty of being able to hit record, and then when you hit stop, it's like we done. Like we done. Like no additional other work, like no editing, like we good, man. We was able to connect with the people, have a great time, get our message across, whether we did it perfectly, eloquently, all of that stuff don't matter. Like we got it done. That's the most important piece. So yeah, like that's one of the things that I love about going live too, is just the ease of once the recording and stuff is over, like we done. Like no more heavy lifting to be done, and we made a great impact on people in the process as well. So
For
w-
sure.
with the coaches listening who are trying to make that transition, right? What would you say are some effective strategies for them to make sure that they have a steady flow of clients coming in so that they can actually be sustainable as full-time coaches?
For sure. I got you. But there's something I want to add on to what we were just talking
Of
about too, right?
course.
With the going live.
Yes.
So when I had my media, I was on the news, right?
Hmm.
Live news. It was not
Yeah.
recorded, right?
Live, like
Checking in
Mike in
my
your face
booth.
live.
And this was like three, 3.5 years after like going live
Hmm.
often, right?
Yes.
Um, I remember after the segment was finished
Hmm.
and like reflecting on it and feeling like, and the feedback was like amazing from people that I know, just like
Hmm.
you're made for TV, the camera loves you, all of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And of course I'm critiquing
Hmm.
myself because it wasn't
Yeah.
perfect according to my
Hmm.
standards, but it got the job done, right?
Right.
And then I'm just like, well, it felt easy.
Hmm.
And so here's why. Because it was post COVID, and
Hmm.
so things had opened up, but they were intentional about keeping space between me and the journalist that was interviewing me, and
Okay.
so there was a camera, a screen set up right in front of me,
Hmm.
right? So I'm
Hmm.
literally looking at myself. So the journalist is over here looking
Hmm.
at their screen, their camera,
Okay.
and I'm over here looking at
Hmm.
my screen. And so I
Hmm.
can see her in the
Okay.
screen, then I can see me when I'm
Hmm.
speaking. It's no different than me going live.
Yeah.
I'm talking
Yeah.
to myself.
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
going live for all those years, right, imperfectly prepared
Yeah.
me for that moment. And no, I'm like, no wonder it felt so effortless because I'm
Right.
sitting here looking at myself like I do when I'm on live every week. You know
Facts.
what I'm saying? And then so it's the gift that keeps on giving. You just never know how doing it scared, doing it
Yeah.
imperfectly, how you're preparing yourself or what you might be preparing yourself for,
Right.
that's to come. And I had no idea. Like I'm thinking I'm gonna
Hmm.
be looking at the journalist face to face. And
Yeah.
I'm just looking back at myself, having a conversation like I always do, me and
Right.
me.
Yeah.
As crazy
Yeah.
as it may seem. But I didn't want to miss that because I felt like that might support somebody as
Nah,
well.
that's good. And to me, kind of what that reminds me of is how important it is to just put in the reps, right? And even though a lot of people get hung up on being perfect and wanting to have the best delivery, I mean, by all means, we all want to come off in a good light, but just being able to get those reps in prepares you for those opportunities when they show up. And like you mentioned, you didn't even know you were going to be put in a position where it's going to be you looking at a screen. Like you went into it thinking like, yo, I'm going to be face to face with another person. This might be a little bit of a foreign situation that I have to adapt to. But then the way God made it, like you in there doing what you always do. And it's like, yo, you can just come on and just show out.
For a time such as this, I'm here to tell
Yes.
you.
So I absolutely love that. Absolutely love it. So going back to the question with
Yeah.
regards to the coaches who are making that transition, what would you say are some of the most effective strategies for having that steady flow of clients coming in?
So lead flow is important, right? You got to
Hmm.
have input in order to get output. And
Right.
that's just fundamental business
That.
mathematics, right?
Yes.
And so it can be one of the hardest pieces of the puzzle. So you can put all of these things together on the back end, have a phenomenal
Yeah.
back end, but if there's nobody to put into it, like
Right.
what are you doing it for? Right?
That.
And so emphasizing like lead flow is important. And what I've realized is that running ads, paid
Hmm.
ads, has
Hmm.
been a game changer as well, as far as
Okay.
getting me in front of audiences of people that like didn't know I existed in
Hmm.
any way, shape,
Hmm.
or form, like a second before my ad popped up on their feed, right?
Right.
Um, that has been instrumental. So having ads attached
Hmm.
to like a funnel,
Hmm.
um, that gets people off of social media and into like my business's ecosystem where I can
Right.
control like communication with them and I'm not limited or regulated by whatever social media platform that I found them or
Hmm.
that they found me on. Like
Yeah.
that, I think out the gate
Hmm.
is like a hack. And
Hmm.
although it can feel like taboo or people don't like to pay for ads or they want to exercise organic marketing, you can, right?
Hmm.
But you're also, unless you already have a vast social network
Right.
up that's made up of like a lot of your ideal client,
Right.
which you never really know until you start talking about
Hmm.
what you do. Because and
Hmm.
I'm confident that there are some people that make
Hmm.
up your target demographic that you're already connected to,
Right.
but the proportion of them in comparison to all of the people that are on Mark Zuckerberg's internet,
Right.
Facebook and Instagram,
Yeah.
it pales in comparison, right?
Hmm.
So getting in front of more people, and just making sure people know that you exist is important. And so
Yeah.
ads has been a game changer. So if I might do anything different, if I had to start
Hmm.
over again,
Hmm.
I would invest in ads a lot sooner, but
Hmm.
not just running ads just to be running ads, like running ads
Okay.
strategically. And so I
Okay.
did invest in some expert support and getting a funnel set up, with
Yeah.
ads and collecting emails and all of that stuff too. Then
Right.
I would say email marketing for sure. And I'll be
Hmm.
totally transparent. This is something that
Hmm.
is like I'm coming for it. Like I'm coming for it. Like open my
Yes.
open my open rates are going up.
Yeah.
Averaging around
I
forty
love it.
percent open rates,
That's
right?
good. Yeah.
Listen.
Right.
It has been an exercise of my faith and my patience. I'm here to tell you, Jay. Okay, but it's
Yeah.
something I'm determined to crack the code on. So
Hmm.
I've converted people from my email list. But
Okay.
for me, it's about being consistent.
Hmm.
And there's some mind clutter to overcome. With
Right.
that too, being a newer coach. So it's like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm emailing too often. People don't want to hear from me. I don't even like to
Hmm.
hear from people that often. And at
Yeah.
some point, you just stop caring and it's just like, listen, I'm going to do
Hmm.
my part because I don't know
Right.
who's waiting for this email today. And I'm just going to do my part and move
Hmm.
on to the next thing on my list.
Right.
But I know that there's a process of, you got to get people to open the emails first for them to even
Right.
see or take the action that you're inviting them to take. So there's the
Right. That's step
process.
one. That's step one.
So the open rates are like they're opening, okay,
That's
and so
good.
then it's like conditioning my audience to now that I
Mhm.
know like they like hearing from me, right? They open
Right.
my stuff,
Hmm.
so now uh, getting my messaging and delivering my messaging in a way that's getting them to take um, action that requires them to input their card information and
Right.
not just click a button,
Right.
right?
Right.
So it's baby steps.
Yes.
But having, people hearing from me, they open my email and I look as soon as I send the email, sometimes I look to see how
Hmm.
many people open it right away and people
Right.
respond to me. So that lets me
Yeah.
know that like they like hearing from me, right?
Hmm.
I just have to solve the problem of like, well, what is it that they are likely to say yes to? What do they really
Hmm.
need? Like what's really going on? And that just comes with having like a community,
Hmm.
and creating that. It takes time, unfortunately. And I know if anybody's like me, I haven't been patient. I've been super impatient. I want what I want when I want it. Okay.
Right.
And so let's just say God in this process of full-time entrepreneurship has humbled
Mhm.
your girl. Okay.
Yeah, he has the tendency of doing that, from time to time.
Yes, call me humble Helen, if you will. Okay, so I'm learning to be patient, trust the process, but I've
Yeah.
also been able to learn so much, right? And so I
Hmm.
can say things now and joke about it, but there have been times I've been like, you know what? Let me go find my resume because
Mm.
this,
Yeah.
listen,
Right.
it's not for the faint of heart at all
No.
whatsoever. But ads, email,
Hmm.
what else would I say? you know, in
Hmm.
this vein of like speak, we talk about speaking, but like being on video, but
Hmm.
actually pitching for like media and speaking
Mm.
opportunities.
Okay.
Like that has been, I keep saying game changer, like
Yeah.
everything. It's just like,
Yeah.
man, I should have done this, and this. And to be honest with you, if I knew then when I first
Hmm.
started what I know now,
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
would have been intentional about pitching myself for speaking in media
Mm.
way sooner.
Okay.
But I don't know if anybody is in a position like me where you get your foot in the entrepreneurship, the foot in the coaching with part time, or you're looking to
Yeah.
take the leap full time. Um, but I definitely had to find myself
Hmm. Hmm.
in the marketplace as a
Hmm.
full time entrepreneur, having this over a decade of experience working for the FBI.
Yeah.
I still stepped into this side of it,
Hmm.
not as self aware
Mm.
and confident as I could
Hmm.
have been based
Okay.
on my resume
Hmm.
on my first day of freedom, right?
Right.
I was already a force to be reckoned with, but I
Yeah.
stepped into entrepreneurship just like, oh, so much that I don't know. And it's
Hmm.
just like, hey, listen, that stuff is elementary compared
Mm.
to what you've experienced and what you know how to do and how you know how to move and shake, especially in an organization like that. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? This is just like this is practice. But
Yeah.
my perspective was off. And
Hmm.
so because I was viewing entrepreneurship in the marketplace from the wrong vantage point,
Mm.
it prolonged the time for me to realize who I am and
Mm.
whose I am, right? And that I
Yes.
was already
Yes.
prepared for this.
Yes.
I just had to see myself how he sees me.
Hmm.
And when I did, it's like, oh, wait a minute. Let me go update my LinkedIn because right now I'm sleeping on myself. Like
Yeah.
people can't know who I am if I'm not telling you who I am, right? If I'm
Right.
not showing
Right.
you who I am. So
Right.
let me dust myself off real quick and act
Mm.
like I'm not new to it but true to it.
Yes.
But some of the things that I have experienced, like
Hmm.
getting pitching the news,
Hmm.
getting invited 2 days later,
Hmm.
like having
Wow.
them well the invitation came 2 days later and I think I didn't
Hmm.
go in live for like 2 weeks, but just
Okay.
for the turnaround, the first time I've ever pitched media, the
Yeah.
turnaround to be 48 hours of getting a response. And
Right.
then it's like, wait, they're not interviewing me from my house, like they
Yeah.
called me into the studio, like what is
Right.
happening? Right?
Yeah.
And then actually like trusting myself enough to do it, doing it
Hmm.
scared, seeing
Yeah.
myself, seeing how people responded to it, and then seeing how I had immediate credibility. And
Hmm.
I'm like,
Hmm.
I've been looking at myself the wrong way,
Yeah.
right? I just
Yeah.
that inner critic has overstayed their welcome, and so
Yeah.
I gotta like put her out finally.
Right. Serving her papers, right?
Yes, you gotta go.
I absolutely love it. Man, you have dropped so many gems on us. I feel like you gave a number of different strategies based on where our listeners and our viewers are. They can pick the one that works best for them. For those who are more suited towards video, get into it. Start going live. It's great training ground for, like you mentioned, whether you are doing speaking engagements, whether you're in the news. It's preparation for that, because like you mentioned, it's one to many. So like just putting in those reps helps prepare you for that. If you're somebody that's comfortable with video, then for those of you who maybe video isn't your thing, you can focus in on the email marketing side of things and building a funnel, so that when you get people into your ecosystem, you're able to nurture them. You're able to then position your offer, your services to them, and see those yeses and those clients come in. And then, like you mentioned, not ignoring paid ads and how effective it can be when it comes to getting a consistent flow of new clients coming in. So you dropped a lot of gems on us. Before we go, I want to hand the mic over to you. Are there any questions you like to ask me, or any last or closing words you like to leave our audience with today?
No questions. Thank you so much for, if you listened this far, thank you so much for listening. I would love for you to keep in touch with me, connect with me on social.
Yes.
You can find me on IG at Danielle The Coach. You can find me on Facebook at Danielle The Coach as well. If you are interested in learning how other mid-career professionals, entrepreneurs that are still juggling a 9 to 5, are creating their corporate exit strategy and quitting without regret, I want to invite you to check out a free training that I have. All you have to do is go to quitwithoutregret.com, and I'll have it waiting for you there. You just give me your email address and I'll send it right to you. If you enjoyed anything that you heard, shoot me a DM and let me know. Like, let's connect. Jay, I so appreciate you for the invitation.
Oh man, yo, this was a fun combo. Like I knew you was gonna come in, show up, and show out, and you definitely did that. Like you gave us a lot to consider, and I just want to say thank you again for everything that you came on and shared with us. And I'll be honest, there is one other question that I want to ask you, and that's with regards to kind of looking into the future. When you look at 2024 and the things that are coming up in the pipeline, what are some current projects that you're working on and hoping to get completed before the end of next year?
You know, I feel like God sent you to ask me that. This was a test, Jay.
Yo,
I see
no,
what's
is
happening, God.
that
I see what's happening. So I have been working on a book for what seems like forever. Okay.
right? Yes.
I actually thought it was gonna come out this year, but
Mhm.
it's not. Okay.
Right.
And so I'm just starting to
Yo,
give
like we were
myself
talking
break.
about, it's already the end of the year, right?
But I do have a definitive date
Mhm.
for 2024. So that is going to,
Okay.
looking forward to that being one of the highlights of my year. Finally becoming a published author, for
Yes.
sure. So definitely follow along if you're listening, so you can keep tabs on when that project comes out, so you can grab it.
Yes.
And I plan on taking people on a journey, with that project as well, because a journey it has been. And I'm not even going to tell you how long I've been working on it, but
I
I digress.
cannot. And I'm curious, what's going to be the focus of your book?
It's going to align with helping career professionals, get clear on like what's next, right? Those
Hmm.
who are frustrated in that 9 to 5.
Right.
And so it's all about quitting without regret. Like you can do it, right? But you reserve the right to do it your way on your terms, in absent of other people's opinions, right?
Hmm.
Because
Yeah.
that sometimes will keep us stuck too. So I'll be sharing like basically my blueprint to
Mhm.
quitting without regret,
Yeah.
in book form.
Yes. Yo, I love that. You guys who are listening and viewing us, make sure y'all tap in. I'm gonna add the links in the description and the show notes wherever you guys are listening, so you can go and sign up. And I know you guys are gonna learn so much from Danielle. If you're not already, make sure y'all follow her. She even gave y'all the green light to slide into the DMs. So if y'all want to connect with her that way, but as I always say, if you do that, come respectfully and make sure you also come with something very specific. No hi. Even though I know you don't have a problem with the high, but yo, have a specific question or something that you would like to address with Danielle, and I'm sure that you'd be open to having those combos with them.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah. Well, yo, this is an amazing convo. Danielle, thank you so much for coming on and dropping so many gems on us. And if you're ever interested in coming back on the podcast, it would be an honor. But thank you for everything you shared.
My pleasure.